Hey guys! Today's video is going to be one of my most highly requested care videos, and it is for Scindapsus plants. I talk about Scindapsus all the time because they are some of my favorite plants to keep in my collection. I have 6 or 7 different varieties, I think, maybe a few more, maybe a few less. But I will be showing you my entire Scindapsus collection at the end of this video, so stick around until then if you would like to see the plants that I have here. But first, huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of courses for curious and creative people. Explore new skills, develop existing interests, and get lost in creativity with Skillshare. The course I'm currently taking is called Real Productivity: How to Build Habits That Last by Thomas Frank. I've been struggling with getting things done on my to-do list day to day, and this has been a great course to help me develop some new methods for managing my time. I've definitely really been enjoying learning some of these life hacks. I love that Skillshare offers membership with a meaning. It makes such a difference in learning when we can connect with the support of fellow creatives in a community of encouragement. So whether you're looking to fend off boredom, focus on self-care through learning, or join other creatives in a community, Skillshare is the place to keep you learning. And it's a great time to join because the first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium membership, and after that it's only around $10 a month. Be sure to head to that link to take advantage of this offer and learn some things with Skillshare. Thank you, Skillshare, and let's get into the video. My best Scindapsus plant care tips. So this is just kind of something to go off of and maybe some signs to look for in your plant so that you can kind of tweak the care for your own home. Lighting, of course, is an important factor for every plant. It's not too finicky about it, but certain lighting can also be of detriment to your plant depending on what that lighting is. So right away, I guess I'll say Scindapsus plants, in my experience, don't enjoy direct sunlight in really any capacity. Most direct sunlight any of my Scindapsus plants get is sitting right in front of a north window. It's not super direct light at any point throughout the day, but it is some direct light. It's just very, very diffused. That's as much direct light as I would give any Scindapsus varieties I have in my house. This one right here used to sit, I initially put it in front of a south window and the plant was not happy whatsoever. It was constantly curling up, drying out, losing leaves. And since I moved it out of that direct southern light, it's been very, very happy. So maybe just play around with the lighting. I do think they're very tolerant of lower light levels as well. This might be a great option for you if you don't have much light in your house. This is my Exotica. This plant is the one that used to be in front of the south window, and since we moved into this house, I moved it. I would say it's about 8 feet back from a north window, which is pretty low lighting for a houseplant, and it is thriving. So it's grown so quickly where it's sitting now, and I have had no issues of it not growing or it getting too pale. It's actually thirsty. We'll talk about that in a second. Next category is water. So something to keep in mind, water and lighting are kind of like they go together. The more light you give your plant, the more often you're going to have to water it. So if you have it in lower light, you're not going to have to water it that often. I have this, like I said, about 8 feet back from a north facing window, and I only water this maybe once a month, which I know some of you guys are probably screaming at me, but I promise you it's incredibly happy with the amount of light it has in relation to the amount of water it gets. What I like about Scindapsus is they are pretty vocal plants overall. There are a few, like I want to say the Scindapsus Moonlight isn't as vocal as some of the other varieties, but the Exotica, the Argyris, the Silvery Ann, Jade, they're all very, very vocal in that when they're thirsty or overwatered, their leaves will curl. The leaves back here are getting pretty curly. So once I notice about half the plant doesn't have super flat leaves like it normally does, I will go ahead and water it. I kind of forgot to mention, I do find this plant to be prone to root rot. So if you're having issues in your plant where the leaves are curling or yellowing, I would bet that it has something to do with the watering. Most likely it's being overwatered. So look at your watering, how you're watering the plant first before anything else. I think that's like the #1 cause of issue with this plant. I've been caring for this plant for, I want to say 3 years now. So I've gotten pretty confident that I'm not going to overwater the plant when I'm noticing the curled leaves. But in the beginning, the way I figured out the duration my plant was wanting to be watered without like going overboard with the curled leaves, because that's the thing that's so frustrating. Curled leaves can mean it's too dry or too wet. So you need to be very careful, but basically all you need to do is if you notice the leaves are curling, go ahead, dig around in the soil a little bit until your finger's maybe like halfway in the soil. If you pull your finger out and there's no soil on it, that means the soil is dry and you can go ahead and water it, and that's why it was curled. Or if soil comes off on your finger, that means it is adequately watered. So you don't need to go ahead and water it. You probably should air out the soil a little bit and let it dry out between waterings a little bit more. So that's just kind of a really good general rule of thumb. Another warning sign with water, which again can go both ways, is yellowing like this. So on younger leaves, especially on the Scindapsus exotica, I found if my plant gets overly thirsty or overly dry, it does start to yellow in the more immature leaves. So the newest growth kind of gets yellowish like this, which is definitely what's happened here. There was one other yellowish leaf, right here. So yeah, you do want to be careful of that. More often than not, I did experience yellowing leaves while I was overwatering, but every once in a while, I do also get some yellowing growth from underwatering as well. So this happened actually between the last time I watered it. This isn't new, it's been here for a while. So just keep kind of an eye on your plant and it'll give you warning signs as to what's going on. You can kind of see what combination of warning signs it's giving you and then adjust your care slightly based on those signs. So yes, fertilizing, and they're pretty easy going. So for all of my plants, I do actually mix in a little bit of worm castings just as a backup measure, but on all of my plants currently I'm using liquid dirt, which I will have the website linked in the description box. It is just wonderful. I have seen some crazy good results from using it in my houseplants. But yeah, I mean, I guess moral of the story, they're not too finicky about the kind of food you give them. I recommend worm castings. You just sprinkle it in the soil and water as normal and that'll feed your plant. I also have had great luck. It stinks so bad, but with fish fertilizer, I'm actually no longer using that because I think liquid dirt is a great replacement for the fish fertilizer. I noticed the same amount of growth in my plants when using liquid dirt instead of the fish fertilizer, and it doesn't stink, although it is kind of a pain to mix, I will say that. Highly recommend it. One pouch I think is around $30 and it lasts for a long time. Just do that every time I water as long as I'm noticing new growth from the plant. If my plant is slowing growth-wise, like mine is kind of starting to slow down a little bit, it's getting really cold here, I will cut back on the amount of fertilizer I'm giving it. So I'll actually still give it a little bit of plant food, but I'll just dilute it by like, I think I've been doing 1/4 strength from what it says on the pouch, but I still do that every time. And I haven't had any issue with it. Doesn't burn my plants and they seem to be happy and fine, doing their thing, being plants and growing. I love Scindapsus varieties, especially as hanging plants, because a lot of other hanging plants, the new growth tends to come in a little bit smaller than the rest of the plant. But even if the plant hangs, the growth tends to come in around the same size as the parts of the plant that aren't like as hangy, and that can't be said for a lot of hanging plant types. I don't know why when they're hanging, their leaves just come in small. They want to climb. And this guy seems to be happy either way. The growth comes in big if I have it hanging, if I have them climbing up something. So yeah, I think it's a really awesome hanging plant option and they fill in very nicely. I think it looks nice. As for the temperature for the plant, I find it to be very tolerant of all sorts of temperatures. It gets really hot here in the summer and really cold here in the winter. And yes, we run the AC and the heat, but in the summer, we let it get quite a bit warmer in our house before running the AC, and in the winter we let it get quite a bit cooler in the house before running the heat. So even though my plants are indoors, they still do experience the 4 seasons for sure. And these seem to be pretty tolerant and continue pushing growth despite a lot of the weather changes. And I guess the one thing I will say about the weather is they do not like touching a freezing window. So that's kind of the only thing I can really think. I guess on the same note, that bright light shining in kind of increases the temperature and makes them need more water. So if it's a little bit hotter, you are going to need to water your plant more. So again, depending on how you have the plant and how you care for the plant, dependent on the variety it's living in. Oh my gosh, this is making no sense. You can still keep your plant happy in those different environments. Just tweak the watering especially. All right, humidity. So I think this is a plant that can definitely benefit from some higher humidity. We'll get into propagation a little bit later, but my Scindapsus varieties I propagate grow so fast in prop boxes. I think because they have high 80%, 90% levels of humidity. Here in my home environment, they do not. They have probably like 40, 45, 50 max, although I don't even think it's 50% humidity at pretty much all times. So they do fine, they still grow, but they're definitely going to prefer higher. So if you're wanting to get like exponential growth from your plant, then maybe give it higher humidity, but if not, it'll still grow pretty quickly. Like this is one of my fastest growing plants. I'm constantly cutting from this thing. I just think it could be a lot better even if it had higher humidity. So this is something that a lot of the different varieties are very different from one another. So the more like thick leafed ones. Okay, so I'll say my Exotica, Silverian, Argyris, Silver Splash, those ones are more forgiving about humidity. The ones that I have a little bit more issue, not too much more issue, is my Silver Lady, which is a more uncommon variety. That one tends to be just slightly more finicky. It hasn't really been an issue for my rooted plant, but my cuttings and things definitely don't do well in low humidity. So I think it just is more of the uncommon ones seem to be a little more finicky. I also have a Moonlight one and a Lucens that are a little bit more finicky about the humidity as well, especially when rooting. So yeah, I mean, they can be tolerant, but I find this to be the most tolerant one out of all the varieties I have. So if you're looking to start out into Scindapsus, I think the Exotica is probably the safest, best route to start out on, unless you're like super experienced with plants. But yeah, I mean, you could do any of them really, but this one is definitely the easiest. And I find it to be the most beautiful, personally. All right, propagation, which is my favorite thing. So I like to propagate these plants by cuttings. Of course, you can also propagate them by division. You can like divide the different vines and things and take the whole root out and pop it somewhere else. But I like to take cuttings, and I prefer to do single leaf cuttings. So what I'll do is I'll just pick a vine, and I tend to pick them that have a lot of nodes, empty nodes without leaves, because you can actually propagate those and end up with a new plant. So, and then I would separate this by each individual node, and I would pop them in a prop box with sphagnum moss. I'll link my propagation box video down below because that is my favorite method for propagation, especially on my more uncommon varieties of plants. So my Silver Lady, the Scindapsus Moonlight, my Jade Scindapsus, I definitely recommend using a prop box. I don't know why, just with those three varieties, I haven't had great success using water propagation. And I've never really had an issue with water propagation, but these other more common ones, I just take a cut, plop it in water, and they do just fine. Varieties, but this is how I propagate the common ones in water. So I guess I'll pull some of these out. This one is a Silver Lady cutting, which it's not rooting, but it's only been in there for a couple of weeks. Like I said, this one is a bit of a pain in the butt to get rooted. Takes a long time, but once the roots do start to form, it goes a lot more quickly. It's just a matter of getting those first roots to start. Maybe I'll throw it in a prop box. But anyway, this is how I propagate most of the time. I take a single leaf cutting and throw it in water. And like, I could for sure pot these up. I'm not going to right now. I'm just gonna leave them in here. So I don't know. I just don't feel like potting lately. I don't know why. I do actually often take cuttings of empty nodes. I can show you how I do that. I've showed you guys before in a lot of my propagation videos. So I'll just take empty node cuttings off my Scindapsus. Like I would cut all of these individually, and I'll just stick them in a prop box underneath the moss, and I end up with new baby plants over time. So that's just kind of something. You cut them, stick them somewhere super humid and like a prop box in sphagnum, and forget about it, and then you'll end up with some new plants. It's really fun and easy. Don't ask me why those other ones are so finicky, but they are, well, they're not so finicky, but they are a little bit more finicky about that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you all the Scindapsus varieties I have in my collection and actually walk you around to them in my home so you can kind of see where they're living. And then after that, I will rank all of them from my favorite to least favorite, and then the ones I find the easiest to, ooh, that was weird. And then also from the easiest to most difficult, again, in my own experience, in my own collection. So yes, it's just my opinion. Might as well just start here where we've already been. So this is my Scindapsus exotica, the first Scindapsus variety I ever bought, and also my definite favorite. I love it so much. It is pretty. Well, I don't know even if I can call plants common anymore, because even some of the more common ones are like pretty sparse out there in the world because there's so many plant people these days, but this one is a little bit easier to come by, I guess I should say. Let me know if any of these are common or uncommon where you live, because I know it changes like dependent on where you live. Anyway, I'm going on. So yeah, this is my Scindapsus exotica, and she is a beaut. Next to a north window is my Argyris, my Scindapsus Argyris. I'm gonna put the name on the screen because I'm definitely not pronouncing that right. It's cute, just a little bit scraggly. I've been meaning to cut this and propagate it. There's that one. Here is my Silver Lady. And I know people say it looks exactly like the other ones, but it doesn't. Look, see, when you have them next to each other, they look a lot different. Let me show you next to the exotica. Oh, you can't even really tell because the leaves are all curled on this one. Yeah, see how different? Yeah. So I actually have two of these. This one's curly because it needed water. I just watered it. It usually is living in my little grow cabinet. Yeah, I really, really like this one. In this little tiny prop box, I have a Scindapsus Moonlight. Oh, I need to add some water in here. This was a cutting I got from Planting the World Red. I bought it from her, and it is now rooted. So something I will say about this baby, I have had one of these in the past and I killed it because it is definitely more susceptible to root rot than the other varieties I found. And whenever I get a cutting, it seems like the border's kind of brown for a while like this. And then it figures itself out and it stops doing that. So just be a little forewarned. Kind of expect something like that if you're going to propagate these. I need to get them some water, they're thirsty. Here in my plant room, about 2 feet off to the side of a window, directly off to the side of a window, I have my other Silver Lady. So that other one I actually propagated from this one. I think this plant is just so beautiful. I love it a lot. A little bit more difficult, I will say, and I did actually get this plant unrooted and I ended up rooting it myself, which, you guys, was a process. It took so long for me to feel confident that this plant was well enough rooted to survive being in soil and also to like pot it up and move it around, but now I think it's good. So yeah, I really, really love it. I can't say too much, but I just think it's so beautiful. Geez, I left my room ones because I thought I'd showed you them all and I forgot to show you my jade, which I actually love this plant, so I can't believe I forgot it. It was a lot longer. It had a lot of trailing vines, and then I've told you guys I've been taking cuttings from my plants for friends quite a bit. They're all looking a little bit more sparse than they used to, but this is a fun one to share with people because it's really, really beautiful. It's kind of a basic looking one where it's like green, but the satin finish on it, ooh, is something else. I love it a lot and highly, highly recommend if you're able to get your hands on one. It is very pretty. So Little Baby Bums is on in the background and I'm next to my lettuce grow tower. So yeah, that's why there's running water sounds. I hope you can hear me well enough, but yeah, this is my Scindapsus Silvery Ann. This was a really hard to come by variety a few years ago, and now it's pretty much everywhere. Yeah, it just gets really splotchy silver bits. I really like it. I think it's so cool and so beautiful. If it doesn't get enough light, you will start noticing more and more leaves come in like this. I may need to move this one soon. I think it's really pretty. Super hyped a while ago. Not as hyped now. I actually think I'm gonna water this here soon, but yeah, I mean, it's a really fun variety. Then this is my Silver Splash, I think is what it's called. I told you guys I have a hard time with it reverting, so here are what the leaves should look like. Here are what they keep reverting to. So you can see this is on the same plant. This is definitely an exotica leaf. This is a Silver Splash leaf, so I do not know what I'm doing. I swear I've tried everything, so I've just kind of given up hope. Oh well. Okay. Why am I so burpy? Now that you've seen the plants, the varieties I have in my home right now, I'm going to rank them easiest to hardest. Exotica, Jade, Silver Ann, Silver Lady, Argyris, and Moonlight. Oh, and then the Silver Satin last because I can't keep the variegation. I can't keep it looking mottled, which is like very important, I feel. The whole purpose of buying a variety of plant is to enjoy the way it looks, right? And also its care, and I just am so frustrated with this one. So that one's going last because that one I cannot keep looking nice. Okay. Anyway, that is all I'm going to say about Scindapsus plants in this video. Again, leave your care advice, the varieties you have, any issues you may be struggling with your Scindapsus plants in the comments down below. Thumbs up or thumbs down this video, depending on what you think of it, if you like this type of content or not. Maybe click onto another one of my videos. It's very, very helpful to me and my channel if you're able to do that. And yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!